Intruder. "She's different from everybody else in the world," stammered Robert ecstatically. "You simply couldn't describe her. No one could." His mother continued to darn his socks and made no comment. Only William, his young brother, showed interest. "How's she different from anyone else?" he demanded. "Is she blind or lame or something?" Robert turned on him with exasperation. "Oh, go and play at trains," he said. "A child like you can't understand anything." William retired with dignity to the window and listened with interest unabated to the rest of the conversation. "Yes, but who is she, dear?" said their mother. "Robert, I can't think how you get these big holes in your heels." Robert ran his hands wildly through his hair. "I've told you who she is, Mother," he said. "I've been talking about her ever since I came into the room." "Yes, I know, dear, but you haven't mentioned her name or anything about her." "Well," Robert spoke with an air of superhuman patience, "she's a Miss Cannon, and she's staying with the Clives, and I met her out with Mrs. Clive this morning, and she introduced me, and she's the most beautiful girl I've ever seen, and she—" "Yes," said Mrs. Brown hastily, "you told me all that." "Well," went on the infatuated Robert, "we must have her to tea. I know I can't marry yet, not while I'm still at college, but I could get to know her. Not that I suppose she'd look at me. She's miles above me, miles above anyone. She's the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. You can't imagine her. You wouldn't believe me if I described her. No one could describe her. She—" Mrs. Brown interrupted him with haste. "I'll ask Mrs. Clive to bring her over one afternoon. No more of this blue wool, Robert. I wish you didn't have your socks such different colors. I shall have to use mauve. It's right on the heel. It won't show." Robert gave a gasp of horror. "You can't, Mother. How do you know it won't show? And even if it didn't show, the thought of it, it's a crisis of my life now I've met her. I can't go about feeling ridiculous." "I say," said William open-mouthed, "are you spoony on her?" "William, don't use such vulgar expressions," said Mrs. Brown. "Robert just feels a friendly interest in her, don't you, Robert?" "A friendly interest?" groaned Robert in despair. "No one ever tries to understand what I feel. After all I've told you about her, and that she's the most beautiful girl I've ever seen, and miles above me, and above anyone, and you think I feel a friendly interest in her? It's the one great passion of my life. Well," put in Mrs. Brown mildly, "I'll ring up Mrs. Clive and ask if she's doing anything tomorrow afternoon." Robert's tragic young face lit up. Then he stood wrapped in thought, and a cloud of anxiety overcast it. "Ellen can press the trousers of my brown suit tonight, can't she? And Mother, could you get me some socks and a tie before tomorrow? Blue, I think. A bright blue, you know. Not too bright, but not so as you don't notice them. I wish the laundry was a decent one. You know, a man's collar ought to shine when it's new on. They never put a shine onto them. I'd better have some new ones for tomorrow. It's so important how one looks. People judge you on how you look. Mrs. Brown laid her work aside. "I'll go and ring up Mrs. Clive now," she said. When she returned, William had gone, and Robert was standing by the window, his face pale with suspense and a Napoleonic frown on his brow. "Mrs. Clive can't come," announced Mrs. Brown in her comfortable voice, "but Miss Cannon will come alone. It appears she's met Ethel before, so you needn't worry any more, dear." Robert gave a sardonic laugh. Worry, he said. There's plenty to worry about still. What about William? Well, what about him? Well, can't he go away somewhere tomorrow? Things never go right when William's there. You know they don't. The poor boy must have tea with us, dear. He'll be very good,